Hey guys, it's Coach Goodrich with another 6th grade Heritage Studies Ancient Civ Cultural Geography video. This is Unit 3, Part 2, which is going to be the history of ancient China. This goes along with Unit 3. The first part was India. Now we're on to China. China, also known as Chengkuo, which translates to Middle Kingdom, not necessarily because of its location at the center of the earth, but because it was seen for a long time as the center, at least for the Chinese people living there, as a center of all cultural civilization. It is geographically very diverse because it is a huge part of land with forests, jungles, deserts, rivers, mountains, and beaches, very similar to the United States in that regards, in its diversity. Even though they remained isolated, China still prospered as a society, becoming an advanced and well-known society. But we're going to focus on 4 of the more prominent ancient Chinese dynasties: the Shang, the Zhou, the Qin, and the Han. Shang, Zhou, like J-O, yeah, like that, J-O-E. Qin, like C-H-I-N, and the Han. Sometimes these are spelled a little bit differently, but this is a translation in your textbook, so this is the one that we're going to use. Boom, Middle Kingdom right here. First one, the Shang, came to power around 1500 BC, settled around the Huanghe, or the Yellow River, mostly farmers. They're going to practice ancestor worship as a form of religion, very superstitious, use oracle bones to predict the future, priests had tremendous power in everyday life. Have you guys ever seen Mulan, the Disney movie where she runs out to pray in their backyard, and their little looks like their little altar section back there to all of the ancestors? That's ancestor worship. Artists were skilled in making items out of bronze, cloth, jade, and clay. They were a different type of dynasty. Power passed from brother to brother instead of from father to son in a direct line, and they would rule for 600 years. Now, each one of these little maps right here, you're going to see in the red area the size grow exponentially with each dynasty as we pass. Next one is the Zhou. Around 1000 BC, the Zhou, led by King Wu, invaded and overthrew the Shang dynasty. This is considered the classical or golden age of Chinese history, the high point of their cultural development. This is going to reinforce the doctrine of the mandate of heaven, which was the supreme force of nature, gave kings the right to rule, that heaven or God or whatever divine force there was made that person in charge for a reason, and that everybody should listen to him. This is going to be copied and borrowed and modified a little bit by later European, especially English, kings later on with something called the Divine Right of Kings, but we'll talk about that as we get into Unit 7. Entire families would live together in compounds that would grow as the family would grow. They established a writing system that would last until this day. Same characters, same patterns, same form of writing. Also made leaps in the field of arts and education through different philosophers, and their empire is going to last 800 years and have a total of 38 kings. See, so Shang Dynasty was like here, Zhou Dynasty is about double that, a little bit under double, and there's King Wu off to the side. One of these philosophers was a guy named Confucius. He's going to teach what is now called Confucianism, taught that good behavior was the key to life, wrote many proverbs, helped instruct his followers, opened his classics up to people from all backgrounds, and he based his teachings on the 5 basic relationships, which kind of revolved around what we know now as a golden rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. So your first relationship would be father to son, then elder brother to younger brother, then husband to wife, elder friend to younger friend, and ruler to subject. And each one of those would have different rules and stipulations you had to follow in order to maintain a good relationship. It's important to note, these and the next couple things in terms of philosophy we're talking about are not religions. You could be a practicing Buddhist and still follow Confucianism, or you could be a Taoist and still practice Hinduism. All right, these are just ways of thinking about the world, kind of how you think and how you approach the problems of the world, not necessarily what you believe. And there's Confucius. Another very important teacher and philosopher was Lao Tzu. He was a teacher and creator of Taoism. Tao, it means the way. According to him, Tao was the guiding force of nature, and people should seek to live in peace and harmony with one another and with nature. People should not seek power and wealth, and they should be content with a simple lifestyle. Did not agree with social classes and with government almost at all. This is the basis of the magical and superstitious element in the Chinese culture, and it was very different from Confucianism. Same kind of goal, wanted peace and prosperity for everybody, but different way of going about it. And there's Lao Tzu. So compare and contrast, you can fill in your chart with this. Confucianism wanted an active lifestyle, while Tao wanted a very passive lifestyle. Confucianism wanted the fulfillment of social obligations. Taoism said you are free to abstain from all of those. Confucianism wanted to improve life through government, laws, and education. Taoism thought that government was the problem, so you have a minimization of government involvement in society. Confucianism wanted you to focus on the human world and relationships. Taoism wanted you to focus on yourself and the natural world. So Confucianism, in my point of view, what I think a very progressive in terms of trying to get involved in the civil service and the government to help out everyone around you. Taoism, I thought, to me, seems more like a hippie, very passive, whatever happens, kind of go with the flow kind of thing. The final philosophy we're going to talk about is legalism. Some philosophers thought that all people were evil and had to be controlled through strict laws. Everybody who broke those laws must be punished quickly and severely, and usually in front of other people to serve as an example. This is going to be the first philosophy to put into widespread practice throughout China by the next dynasty we're going to talk about, which is the Qin. Began in 221 BC, founded by Qin Shi Huangdi after he conquered his 6 rival states. His name means the first emperor. He's going to set up a legalistic and bureaucratic government. Bureaucratic just means to divide different sections up into different agencies, and each one of those agencies kind of controls that area and reports back to the king. He divided his empire into 36 districts or counties, and each with its own governor that was loyal to him. He punished his rivals and critics harshly, but he also standardized currency, the money system, taxes, and had helped the infrastructure to grow to help unify China. He is responsible for constructing 2 of the wonders of the ancient world in the Great Wall and the terracotta army that guards his tomb. He would ban certain books, especially Taoist or Confucianist books that taught different ways of life than what he lived. The Qin dynasty only lasted about 20 years, disappearing shortly after Qin Shi Huangdi passed away. But Qin is where we get the word from China. So very, very short in its time period, but the impact cannot be understated. Or cannot be overstated. You see the Qin dynasty here, as well as the formations of the first part of the Great Wall of China. So the Qin dynasty takes the Zhou dynasty and doubles it. And there's Qin Shi Huangdi right there. One of the ways you try to oppress learning is not only by destroying and burning books, but by also punishing the philosophers and scholars that taught that. I guess right here, via thrown into pit. And then Qin Shi Huangdi found in Beijing, the capital of China today. Great Wall, which is so large it can be seen from space, one of the few man-made things, the only man-made thing in the ancient world, artifact in the ancient world that can be. And then this is where Qin Shi Huangdi was buried, and he built a representation of his entire army to help guard him forever. Watch a couple of videos on that, it's pretty interesting. Finally, the last dynasty is the Han. The Han rose to power around 202 BC. The most famous ruler was Wu Ti, who expanded China to include parts of Korea and Central Asia. He would adopt Confucianism as their official policy and developed a civil service system to help train government officials and advisors. They made many achievements in the fields of manufacturing, medicine, science, and literature, and trade routes would be established, such as the Silk Road. Social classes became more rigid, think like the caste system in India, with 4 distinct levels: the emperor, the court, and scholars, peasants, artisans, and then merchants. Merchants were seen as untrustworthy because they really, at least in terms of the stereotypical ideas back then, only cared about money. Peasants were seen as higher up because they provided the food supply for everybody. This is one of the few times in history where peasants had a slightly higher standing in society. They would be overthrown about 400 years later in 220. But you see the Han Dynasty grows even more so, straightened out. The Great Wall appeared to protect it from invasion from the north. And there's Wu Ti. Some of the achievements of the Han, you can read about these in your textbook to get a little better idea. For manufacturing the iron plow and wheelbarrow, rudders for boats to help give them direction, silk. which we will watch a little video on, and better swords and armor. Medicine, advances in the form of acupuncture, putting small needles put in certain points of the body to relieve tension or pressure. Still practiced fairly widely. If you find little Eastern medicine shops that will do that for you, even in Lakeland. Science, you have the seismoscope invented by a guy named Shang, which is going to help to predict where earthquakes and when earthquakes will appear. And then in literature, you're going to see a focus on a combination of prose or regular writing and poetry, specific songs, and then Sima Qian's history of the dynasties of China. One of the last great advances here was the formation of the Silk Road. Emperor Wu Ti of the Han sent Zhang Qian, one of his generals, to explore the western parts of the nation past China to discover what was out there. Qian began to trade with the other kingdoms he ran into for better battle horses, but soon those trade routes began to grow and included lots of other items. It's going to be called the Silk Road because of its most famous product, which is silk from China. It's going to stretch 4,000 miles. It's going to help to open the world for worldwide trade and spread of ideas, religion, technology, and other products. So the red line represents the original Silk Road, but then you have the different routes that lead off of it that connected it from the Far East all the way out into Europe, into parts of Africa, in Northern Asia, the Middle East. Truly a marvel for the time. Alright guys, go ahead and answer the mini quiz. Be able to answer these correctly on Google Classroom, and I look forward to discussing this with you guys very soon.